G'day, I'm Paul. Kia is just about to launch what I think is a pretty exciting car here in Australia. It is going to be a more affordable electric vehicle that they're going to market to the masses. It's kind of Sportage in size as well, so you can kind of think of this as an electric version of the Sportage. It is called the Kia EV5, so it's launching in Australia around June. We don't know pricing or specifications just yet. All we do know is that we're getting the entry level and a mid-spec. They will go on sale in June. So today we're going to have a closer look at this vehicle, see how it stacks up to some of the leaders in the segment like the Tesla Model Y, which is the best-selling electric car in Australia, and then see whether they do have the goods here, if it's priced right to really make a dent. This is also made in China as well, so it should mean a much bigger supply for the Australian market. So today we're going to have a quick look at this and crawl around the interior. I'll show you the boot as well and run you through some of the highlighted specs too. Now, if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this little video, you can use the time codes that are on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. Let's take a closer look at the EV5. Okay, so let's talk about styling to start with. Pretty sharp looking vehicle. The only change you're going to see here, this is a pre-production car. The only change you're going to see here between this and the car that we're getting in Australia is this down the front here. The fun police here in Australia say we can't have this for pedestrian impact reasons. Makes no sense to me, but anyway, so that will just be a covered off section there, but Kia logo up the front there. Big fan of this logo. I've mentioned this in a few of our previous Kia reviews. It's like they've taken a bit of aluminium and just, carved off the top and laser etched Kia in there. I think it looks pretty cool. Some people say it all looks like KN as well, but I don't see that. Being an EV, you have a lot of this blocked off stuff here, mainly because all of your cooling is down below. So this actually gets a different battery to what we've seen in EV6 and EV9. They both use an NMC battery, whereas this is an LFP battery, and I'll run you through some of the differences there once we get around to that charging port on the side. LED daytime running lights, full LED headlights as well. In terms of the design, here in person, it is an SUV, but it doesn't look enormous. It does look and feel bigger than a Sportage, but in terms of the dimensions, we're talking about just over 4.6 metres long, and to put that into context, it's about 140 mil shorter than a Tesla Model Y, 1875 millimetres wide, and that's about 100 mil narrower than a Model Y. It also sits on a shorter wheelbase than EV6 as well, so this is 2750, so it is shorter than what you find in EV6 and also EV9. So I'll be curious to see what it's like there in the second row in terms of space. Now let's have a look at these wheels. I actually quite like what Kia does with their electric vehicles when it comes to wheel design. Obviously this is this design for aero, but I just think it looks really cool. It has that sort of machined finish here, piano black in the centre there, and it's all sort of covered up and just looks nice and neat as well. Signifies to everyone that you're driving an electric vehicle. Now, let's talk charging and battery as well. So I mentioned before, NMC versus LFP. One of the big differences is with an NMC battery, you're only recommended to charge it up to 80% and then only do 100% charge when you go on an extended drive. LFP, on the other hand, it's recommended that you charge it all the way through to 100%. So the battery isn't as energy dense, but to me, it's more usable, and that's what you're going to find in vehicles like the entry level of BYD's range, Tesla's range as well. They'll all use similar types of battery that allow you to have that better, drivability and charging capability as well. So you've got three different types of battery set up. You've got a 64 kilowatt hour battery in the entry level variant. You have an 88 kilowatt hour battery in the long range variant. And finally, you have a 70 kilowatt hour battery in the dual motor variant, and they all provide different levels of driving range. We only have the Chinese driving range estimates because this is a vehicle that's made in China. So those estimates are slightly more ambitious than WLTP figures. So when we do get those proper official figures, we will update you, but what you're seeing there on the screen now is just the Chinese figures. Offers both AC and DC charging. This will charge at a lower rate as well because it's only 400 volt compared to 800 volts in EV6 and EV9. Big difference there as well is the platform. It's not the same eGMP platform that you're going to find in 6 and 9. So it is slightly different in that regard. You've got a different battery as well, which means you have lower charging capacity. We don't know the exact figures yet, but if it's anything like what Tesla does, it peaks at about 150 kilowatts and then walks its way back to about 100 kilowatts as an average charge for the rest of the cycle. AC charging up to 11 kilowatts on 3-phase as well. Now, outside of charging, piano black here on the side, you've got a big glass roof here as well. It opens too, which is a little bit different. Typically with electric vehicles, they just seem to have an enormous glass roof and you don't have any control whether it's open or closed, whereas this one opens, it has a cover as well, which is good. You've got roof rails there. More of this brushed aluminium stuff on the side here, which we've seen across other Kia models. Pop-out door handles as well. They retract when the car's locked. Come around to the back with me. I'll show you what this all looks like. Now, the back is a really fascinating design because where I stand here, look at where the back is. So it kind of comes to the back here and then slopes down. So you've got this really interesting kind of speed tail effect on the rear there. So I'll be interested to see what that means in terms of visibility out the rear when we're driving, because obviously your high point is here. You're going to be missing out on all this section up the top here. Kia badge there. You've got a reverse view camera there as well. LED lights that wrap around the side there. Piano black further down the bottom here. EV5. Now let's have a look at the boot. I don't have official cargo capacity figures, but I'll show you a couple of the innovations they have here. So you've got storage up the front. It's only a little bit of storage. This is a front-wheel drive predominant platform, so you can get front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, but it means that you have limited storage under the front there compared to, again, something like a Tesla. In the back here, though, the storage is much better. You've got a storage slot up the front there, so that gives you a deep little area. And then have a look at this. This section here, instead of just folding up, it actually lifts up like a table, so you can put stuff on the top there if you need to. Gives you access to this lower section as well. Only downside though is that if you have anything in the boot, you kind of can't just get a cable out or anything that you've got here, because you'll need to take all the stuff out of the boot. So if you've got a pram or something like that, this is obviously not going to work all that well. So it's probably something they didn't really think about all that well for a family vehicle. Hooks on the side here, these are adjustable as well, so you can slide those out, move them to a new location. V2L down here too, so you've got a power outlet there. What are we, 250 volts AC, 10 amps, so pretty decent output there. And you'll also be able to run V2L out of the actual charging slot as well, and that should be at 15 amps instead. So pretty decent and usable space. The only downside is this setup here. It'd be good if they had a hinge on the back to let you get stuff out. Also would be good if this could be a bit deeper. You've got to remember that if this is a front wheel drive, you in theory have nothing under there, so they should have been able to actually go a little bit deeper here with the storage, specifically for front wheel drive cars. Let's jump inside the cabin. I'll show you what that all looks like. So we're inside the cabin of the EV5. This is what the key looks like. So a bit like the EV9, it's a recycled key, which is just so fascinating, you know, whole green thing. And then this lights up as well when you press any of the buttons, which is kind of cool. So the design here is really fascinating. All of the vehicles are actually going to come with this padded section. So this is technically your center cover. So I like the concept, but I just don't know how practical this is. So a great slot there for your phone, but it kind of covers up potentially usable space under here, and it means that you've only got this slot here and then under here to store things. It means that nothing is really out of sight from people who are just walking past the car. So having an enclosed storage area has its benefits. There is a trick to this though, and I'll show you when we jump into the second row. And this here is just an armrest, so that doesn't open up at all, so there's no storage available in there. You do have stuff like removable slots here for cup holders. You've got wireless phone charging, USB-C connectivity. You've got 12 volts outlet down the front there as well. Similar to the EV9 as well, you've got two 12.3-inch displays, but this center section is its own screen as well. So this is where you control some of the climate features. I am seeing immediately though, being sort of here in the driver's seat, I actually can't see half that screen, and it's the same problem I have in the EV9. So while it is a novel idea, it's not exactly usable, because if I need to actually change anything while I'm driving, I'm going to peer my head around to look at any of these sort of buttons over here. But this is the latest generation of Kia's infotainment system, which means it comes with connectivity. Now, obviously this infotainment system, this car's pre-production, this is all China domestic market stuff, but you can see what you're able to do here. They've got fun audio, mini program, WeChat built into there. You've got location sharing. Pretty cool setup. So we'll obviously have remote connectivity here, and I think the functionality you have here within the car will be shared with stuff like the EV9 as well, which has the latest generation of this system. I like this as well. So you've got physical buttons here for climate controls. Yes, you do have this screen, but you've also got physical buttons here to get to shortcuts. You've also got these touch sensitive buttons up the top. So if you do want to access the map, for example, you just push down on that, and you've got a home button there as well. So that'll makes life a little bit easier. A little coat hook or a sort of luggage shopping, something hook just here, so you can pop your stuff on there if you want. Steering wheel's nice and cool. You got, sits nicely in the hand. You've got paddle shifters there to adjust regen modes, drive mode down the bottom there, and then this is the gear shifter as well. So slightly different to what you're sort of used to seeing in a car, but this is common on some electric cars. LED lighting across the cabin there with 64 configurable colours. This is a launch colour for the car. It's like a beige, and you can see as you work your way up the top of the cabin, the materials change colour there too. Something I love seeing right here, a head-up display. So many, Teslas just don't have a head-up display, and this is such a great feature to have in a vehicle. So yeah, look, outside of that, I think it's just a nice vibe to this interior. It looks very futuristic. It's not over the top. There's no sort of silly things around here. It is just a nicely presented interior that looks premium. When we're talking about pricing for this vehicle, we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but we're expecting it to be less than a Model Y, so under $70,000. If they realistically want to sell a lot of these, they're predicting they can get around 1,000 of these a month here in Australia. You want to have really sharp pricing, and I think if they do have sharp pricing, we could actually see a realistic competitor to the Tesla Model Y. You've got to remember that this has a 7-year warranty compared to a 4-year warranty with Tesla, and Kia obviously also has a dealership network around the country as well to make it easier to get the car maintained and looked at. So I kind of like what I'm seeing here. I can't wait to actually get this out on the road to see exactly what it's like to drive. Now, I'm going to run you through just some of the powertrain options here. I'm going to get my phone out for this. So EV5 entry level is powered by front-wheel drive. So this will be front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, 160 kilowatt electric motor there. And that's paired to that entry-level battery, which is 64 kilowatt hour battery. The long range has the bigger battery, 88 kilowatt hours, but the same electric motor. So that's probably going to mean that it is much slower than the entry level, but you are getting that extra range. And then if you do go down the dual motor path, that goes to 70 kilowatt mounted rear motor, and then that also adds the 160 kilowatt mounted front motor, combined output of 230 kilowatts. So, and that's paired to a 70 kilowatt hour battery. So you've got a few different options there, and I'll be interested to see how it drives, because the Australian team has had a huge involvement in terms of ride and handling, and that should actually mean that this rides and handles like an EV should for the Australian market. So hopefully they've been able to have enough access to it to fully achieve that. Righto, second row, what is it like back here? So look, I'll draw this comparison because I've owned Model Y now for 2 years. This is a smaller vehicle than the Model Y, but surprisingly, it actually has what feels like a similar amount of room. I've got my chair, or front seat, pretty far back here, and I've still got a decent amount of knee room and toe room. Headroom is fantastic as well. In terms of your creature comfort, so USB-C charging here and on the side there as well. The whole reason you don't actually have storage up the front there is because they've offered your rear passengers this storage. So it's like a massive bin that folds out. So I guess in theory, if you did have stuff you wanted to hide, you could just slot it into there. So a bit of a compromise. So you're sort of robbing your front space to service your rear space, but I actually think that's not a bad idea at all. You've got mat pockets back here, and have a look at this. So you have a table that folds out as well. Obviously, this is a left-hand drive pre-production car, but for right-hand drive, this table will be on this side instead. So I don't know whether you find that useful or not, but you've got a table there anyway. Now, this is also interesting here in the second row because it folds flat, but they've also thought about what happens when you get to the middle section of a second row that folds flat, and that is the space in between. So they've got these magnetic covers that flip back over to make sure that you do have a flat floor that you could potentially sleep in as well if you wanted to. So that has been your first look at the Kia EV5. Let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. I'll tell you what, I think if they price this sharply, they have access to a lot of stock now. The thing with Kia here in Australia is Europe robs Kia of stock because in Europe they have all these tough regulations on emissions, and basically all of European production is taken for Europe so they don't have to pay credits to brands like Tesla. Whereas here in Australia, we have that issue where we don't really have a great deal of regulation, so we don't get that stock. China, on the other hand, it is a factory that is pumping out these vehicles for the Chinese market and now for the Australian market as well. So even though the volume we take from overall production isn't huge, means that we can have significantly more here in Australia at around that 850 mark per month. So if it is sharply priced, I reckon they're going to sell a bucket load of these. So let me know what you reckon in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you like it, you share it with your mates. I'm going to have a proper drive of this when it launches around June here in Australia, and I'll let you know what I think about it once I've spent a bit more time in it. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, take it easy.